Hello, 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 and welcome. My name is Sabrina Victoria, and I am here with Mariah. And we're going to be talking all about born to birth, reclaiming women's power. So get comfortable as we explore the triumphs and the challenges when it comes to giving birth. So excited. Mariah is here to offer some insight and some inspiration to really fuel you on this personal growth path, this challenge. So let's jump right in.
Get ready, because today's guest is about to change the way you view your world. This is Her Talk Show, hosted by Sabrina Victoria.
Hello, if you're listening live, I see you. And if you're listening on the replay, make sure you hashtag replay wherever you're at so we can send you some love a little bit later in the day. We're here every day. We delve deep into the realms of health, wealth, and leadership with some of the most brilliant women globally to really guide us on this journey of life. We've interviewed over 600 women, and today we are adding another one to the list. We have Mariah, who is a passionate birth empowerment coach, labor and delivery nurse, body worker, and energy medicine practitioner. She integrates her extensive knowledge and experience to support women in reclaiming their power during birth and beyond. With a deep belief that empowerment begins at birth, Mariah gives women thorough transformative experiences, helping them release trauma, trust their bodies, and embrace birth as a pivotal moment of strength and confidence. Welcome, lady.
Thank you. So excited to be here.
Yes, so exciting. And what a topic to be covering on a Saturday afternoon.
Especially with all the holiday babies.
Yes,
They
absolutely.
They do call this induction season. So
Do they really?
yes, they do.
I was born in August. When were you born?
March. Yes.
Got it. Okay. So mine was like a holiday baby because,
Well,
right?
when we're looking at Thanksgiving
Christmas.
and Christmas, New Year's, they sort of a term kicked around called induction season because of trying to get the babies born before the holidays or, shortly after one in between another. So it starts to get a little controlled in the birth world.
Wow. I didn't realize that. I did hear, though, that August is one of the higher birth months.
August and September are higher birth months, but it's not necessarily about how many babies are due. It's when they're due.
Got it.
So sometimes the induction can come from the desire of the provider or even the provider, the family wanting to have the baby before or, right at, it's like it becomes a planning thing, which that it's not, I wouldn't say it's not like our only provider driven because families are involved in this decision as well.
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
those pick up. So it's not necessarily the amount of deliveries that are projected for that month as much as like what day are they falling on.
Got it. That makes sense. So I know that we are here today to kind of speak on all of the fear that surrounds women around the topic of birth. And you and I were just talking, just awesome conversation, which I had never even thought of before, but like the mindset of the woman going into birth and how important that is, which is why you kind of identify as more than just like a birthing practitioner, but more so the empowerment and the mindset. Can you kind of dive into that a little bit?
Yeah. Originally, so I served in the Air Force for almost 24 years. And the first half was spent emergency medicine. I was an EMT. I worked in a level 1 trauma center. So when I went through nursing school, I really thought I'm going to just be an ER nurse. During that time, I kind of looked at these clinicals in the women's health, doing a labor day and a postpartum day, and thought, I am a little bit burnt out on emergency medicine, but this seems kind of interesting. I'd never considered that. So I actually ended up going into the obstetrical track. And I knew nothing about birth. I personally experienced a cesarean for myself, and so I I didn't realize how my birth impacted me when it happened. I was 22. And when I started as a labor nurse, I started to see when some of the patients we had these really good experiences, I started to reflect back on my own and really realized why I didn't feel happy or fulfilled or even like I gave birth was because I was going through birth trauma. So I delivered my son in 1995, and birth trauma was not a word. It wasn't a thing. It wasn't acknowledged. And I started to, my son was 15, and I actually started to grieve my birth experience because I've only had one. I've never been able to um, go through the like what I thought about it until that time. I ordered my medical records. I started to look into my birth.
How did you know it was related to the birth? Like, did something trigger you to realize that? How
I
did you
was
know it wasn't just like you were
wa-
dealing with something at work?
watching women have a good birth experience. Watching, so my
Okay.
experience was the nurses were they were talking down to me. They were kind of like belittling me, scolding me. And when I saw nurses talk kindly, be supportive, I was like, well, they didn't have to be like that with me. And when I went to, we have training for labor. It was like 2 weeks in a classroom setting, and then 4 weeks you do a clinical portion. And during the 2 weeks, they talked about when women are feeling labor pains. They said, you can do like hip squeezes or some comfort measures, but most women get epidurals. So they just moved on. They didn't teach us how to provide hands-on comfort measures. But what I specifically remembered from my experience was I went to a routine doctor's appointment, found the on the ultrasound, my amniotic fluid was low. So they just walked me up to labor and delivery and said, I'm being induced. And I still didn't understand what was happening to me because I didn't even know you could make a baby come. I thought they just came on their own. I've never heard of an induction, knew what that was. So I was confused. And they treated me like I was dumb. So then when when I was hearing them say, women choose epidurals anyway, I remember the start of my induction, they refused to give me an epidural till I was at least 4 centimeters. And for me to get to 4 centimeters, I was in a lot of pain. And I said, well, what do you do when they're not allowed to get an epidural until a certain time? Like nobody helped me. The nurses didn't stay in the room. The nurses didn't even teach me a way to breathe, nothing. So that became very important to me. I said, I'm not going to treat anybody the way I got treated. And so I dove into
Wow.
learning more. And that's how I came across understanding what doulas do. And I took a doula training workshop. I said, I just want to know how to do the comfort measures. I'm already a labor nurse. I know all like the medical stuff. And so I learned the comfort measures very early as a nurse, which at the time was not really heard of. Labor and delivery nurses didn't go to doula trainings. Labor and delivery nurses were just like, they knew what was going on in the hospital, and they just, it was like, we taught what we knew and nothing else. So I went outside of that and I brought in like new knowledge, and that's how the growth started to occur for me, because I got more into, now I understand there's an emotional component, didn't know that before. Now I understand there's a physical body component, didn't know that before. This is how I ended up in the body work and in the energy work and then the mindset work, because I started to see women really say, oh, I really would like to have a natural birth. I don't know if I can do it. And I was like, just tell yourself you could do it.
Hmm.
Mind over matter. I would
Love
say
that.
that all the time, but I didn't understand why somebody couldn't do mind over matter until I started my mindset training with Bob Proctor and realizing the paradigms, the program beliefs, they lie very deep. And when we don't understand what is our limiting belief, Well, we can't change it because some nurse said mind over matter in the moment when you're having your contraction. And so that's how the mindset component became a uh, bigger part of my birth empowerment coaching, because I spend 4 months on 8 lessons of how to shift your mindset. So going from any kind of fear, lack of confidence, into this impenetrable mindset. And then the body and the energy follow through with that after.
Do you ever work with individuals who have trauma from a past birth? The birth was just so bad.
That is actually common to the clients that I get, because they don't want to go through that again.
Yeah.
Others that want to do a vaginal birth after cesarean, a VBAC, they carry a lot of that. They carry a lot of fear going into their next birth of, I don't want that to happen to me again.
Yeah.
And the way I believe with the mindset is we have to create the idea that this is a brand new experience. That one we have to leave in the past. Now, what do we need to do to create this new idea that this birth is going to go exactly the way you want? I have a little saying, manifest your birth your way. So when you invite the fear into the next birth, you don't enjoy the pregnancy because you're kind of scared when labor starts. When labor starts, you live in fear that you'll experience the same thing, especially if somebody wanted to have a VBAC. They say their C-section was caused by failure to progress. So when they got to 8 centimeters, nothing happened. So when they get on this next birth to 8 centimeters, they are petrified. Because now it's like, am I going to get past 8 centimeters? Am I going to get past 8 centimeters? So we work through all of that so that when that comes, you are feeling like, of course I am. Of course. I've already seen my birth. I've already visualized it. Of course.
I love that. This is kind of reminding me of is they say that the number one reason why people have ongoing anxiety attacks is it's triggered by the thought of having an anxiety attack.
Yeah.
It's not even triggered by like life. It's just like the thought of having another anxiety attack creates the anxiety, which then creates the anxiety attack.
You have anxiety.
Yeah. So this is what this is kind of reminding me of. It's like, if you just tell yourself like, yeah, I'll get to 9 centimeters after 8, then the probability of you doing that is very high. Compared to like saying something negative, meaning I did it before, I don't know if I can, then you're listening to yourself.
Yeah. And that is how I like. So when I was telling women mind over matter, and then I was trained by Bob, and Bob helped me understand that we have to create a new story. We have to see the birth before it happens. And then when those, like, we can't erase memories, but we can shift the belief so that that memory becomes smaller and smaller and smaller, and it doesn't identify you anymore. So when we give people labels, they believe in that label, so they become that label.
Absolutely.
This is something I hear from Abraham Hicks all the time, is you get what you think about, whether you want it or not. So the power of our thoughts, the power of our beliefs are what will unfold in front of us. And when we really understand that and the true depths of that, we can create anything we want in life. And you hear this a lot with people like Tony Robbins and anybody that's looking for like success or money or, certain things in their career. I've taken it into the birth space, because here's I got to try to say this in a easy to understand way, is if we start at the birth space and we start with a healthy birth, a healthy mother, she then gives birth to this healthy baby that by the time they're 25, 26, they're not really looking to all these mindset success coaches, because they already believe in themselves. So we have this society that people have lived in limiting beliefs. Things aren't working out for them. They believe it never will. They come across people like Bob Proctor or, Joe Vitale or all those people that have helped me overcome my limitations to understand that if I had known this back in my 20s, I could only imagine where I would be today, right? So when we have the idea of what we call the unconscious competence, some people just know, they just feel, they just do, they're not afraid. And this becomes like where the people that are afraid, that do live in limitation, go, I don't know how to be like you, but I really want to. And we do this in birth all the time. Women have wonderful births, and then the one person that's really wants that birth but doesn't know that she can just simply believe in herself and her body for that to occur, then her birth doesn't turn out so good. And then unfortunately, we have this conflict going on in birth spaces where they say, like, a woman who has a great birth is almost afraid to tell her great birth story, because then you have the women who've had traumatizing births say, now I feel small because you had a good one and I didn't. And
I feel that.
and yeah, and that's why I encourage you to shine your birth story. Your birth story is beautiful. Women need to know this is possible, because now that we've almost suppressed the wonderful birth stories and shined the light on all the birth trauma, now women are expecting birth trauma. So what do? We get what we think about, whether we want it or not.
Wow.
When we go into the idea of, I just don't want an induction. I just don't want gestational diabetes. I just don't want hypertension. The mind is the subconscious mind only hears hypertension.
Totally.
It does not differentiate between want and don't want.
Got it.
So you have to use different language. You have to use the language of, I want a powerful birth. I want a fast birth. And it doesn't say, like, because you sit there saying, I want a fast birth, you'll have a fast birth. But what that might do is, in the unfolding of your pregnancy journey, you may run into a certain type of body worker that makes your muscles and ligaments just supple like butter, and you have a fast birth. So it's like, it's bridges of incidences that will open up by the language you use, all based on your subconscious beliefs. And I've worked with women that took prenatal education classes and just lost it in the labor, because the classes just gave them knowledge. The conscious academic mind does not drive the body. The subconscious mind is the emotional brain that drives the body. So you can get all this knowledge, but if you don't have the belief inside yourself, it doesn't show up. And that's why the mindset is, to me, the very beginning, the biggest portion, the most important, that we get that in that state of belief and calm and confidence. And I am a woman who births easy. I am a woman who had a natural birth months before you had that natural birth. I am a woman who had a beautiful water birth months before you had that water birth. So it's almost like deja vu.
Yeah, I love that.
That's the mindset that women deserve.
Are you there?
Yep. It's okay. I see when it's scrolling, so I just wait. I pause.
I love it. This is great. And I love just hearing you say powerful birth. Like, even just that saying is like, I don't want to be like, I want to give birth again, but I mean, that's cool.
This birth defines you. And I think that's something some people don't want to say. But if I reflect back to my own, I left the hospital kind of like, this was it. I thought it was supposed to be greater than that. And then when I meet people that were like, wow, the birth was, and I was like, I didn't get that. And it makes me want to do one again only to get that feeling. But like, even if I did and got that feeling, it wouldn't erase the first birth that
Ooh,
created that desire to go get that feeling.
got it.
There was a girl that I met. She had 3 births. All 3 births were natural, but very different.
Huh.
Her first birth, she birthed at a birthing center, did a little bit of hypno birthing, water birth. Her second birth, she ended up needing to have an induction because they noticed the baby wasn't growing as it should. So they called it fetal growth restriction. So she had an induction for that. And she said they were being as respectful as they could to have her natural birth, but when it came to pushing, they made her get out of the tub. They made her get to the bed, and she was just like, I did not want to be at that bed, but I somehow found myself there. I don't even know how it happened. And so she describes like they were natural, but did they feel powerful? Not so much. And then her third birth, she had a planned birth at a birthing center, but the birthing center was very far from her house. And she went in where she thought she was in labor. They drove to the birth center. She was only like 3 centimeters and it wasn't changing. So they were saying like it's not active labor. It was kind of something called prodromal labor, where that early labor is very strong and it's really like not progressing the cervix to dilate, but these contractions are strong. They are painful. You think you're in labor, and then it becomes very, very emotional and very hard to keep being told you're not changing. This is just early labor, when you're just like, this can't be early labor. It's too painful. So I saw her talk about that, and I reached out to her. This was how I met her. I'd never met her before, but I'd been watching her on social media. So I reached out to her. I said, hey, I'm an emotion code practitioner, and I hear you say you're just scared of this and you're just scared of that. I offer you a complimentary session. So she said, okay, I'll take you up on that. But I got to drive back from the birth center to her home, which was 3 hours.
Wow.
So she drove 3 hours. She already has 2 kids, 2 small kids, 2 under 2. She was going for 3 under 3. And she actually had doula training, and she had obviously delivered at a birth center, delivered at a hospital, has always been unmedicated with no epidural. And so about 3 days later, she finally calls me and says, okay, I'm ready. And I said, okay. We started what is called an emotion code session. That's the energy work that I do. And while I was talking to her, I was just kind of like asking her more and more about what's going on, how's she feeling. And the word fear, I'm just scared. I'm just scared of this. I'm just scared of this. But what kept coming up was, I'm just scared that if something happened to my baby, they would have to fly him to a children's hospital. I'm deathly afraid of flying. And I said, I think that's it. Because she was in a space where she felt safe to give birth at the birth center, but she was not in a space where she felt safe that if something happened to her baby, she would be too scared to fly and go with the baby to the. And it doesn't make sense, right? But this is how these fears fester in our
Absolutely.
bodies, and we don't even know it's
Yeah,
happening. So I
absolutely.
did an emotion code session. I released the fears, the emotions attached to that fear. And then I said, okay. And she didn't know what emotion code was. She didn't even know who I was, but she was desperate. She was just like, I'll do anything. So I said, okay, I've released the emotions that came up through your subconscious. I do it through muscle testing. And I said, I don't know like how to say it. Like, you may feel different, you may not. I said, it's going to be all up to you, but we released emotions that were blocking and creating fear. She's like, okay. So um, about a day or two later, I get a message from her, and she said, I can't make this shit up. She said, I didn't want to tell you, but before we finished that, whatever it was, because she still wasn't understanding, she said, I started contracting. And I was like, no, that's not it. No. And she's like, so I just sat at home. She was like, I don't think so. No, I don't think so. And then she kind of kept going. And she was like, I think so. Oh dear. She's like, I don't know if I'm going to make it. And so she called her midwife. She said, I don't think I'm going to make it. So she stayed on the phone with her midwife, got in her tub, her husband by her side, her mom helping with the kids, and she birthed her baby at home in her tub. And it was, she said, I had no fear. It was the most powerful birth I've ever had out of all of
Oh,
them. And she was like, this, we talked later, and she said, the first birth, I wasn't getting that feeling. The second birth, definitely didn't get that feeling. She said, so I think I kept wanting to birth to finally get that.
kind of what you were saying.
Yeah. And she said, and I got that. She said, because I finally believed that I just needed me. I could do it. I didn't need a doula. I didn't need this big team around me, that it was all in me. And she said it was the most powerful birth I've ever had. And I feel like I'm done. I feel good. I feel I don't need that do-over birth. I don't need that makeup birth. I don't need that. Let me see if I can make it better, because I know it's supposed to be powerful. And I said, that's exactly it. Where we hold our fear, sometimes it's so like repressed. And that's why when I started to understand this and learn this, it became part of my coaching program, because there's no way we cannot visit that, because this might be, maybe you get the right mindset, but you still have suppressed emotions that can interfere with the progress. When things interfere with the progress, we start making decisions we didn't want to make. We start getting like sleep deprived. We're so tired. We're in such pain. We stop caring. We start saying, I don't care. Like, take me to the hospital. I'll get an epidural. I don't care. I know I didn't want Pitocin, but I don't care. I know I didn't want a C-section, but I don't care. Just make it stop. So they do. And then once they feel better, they start reflecting back and going, oh, I wish I didn't do that. I wish I didn't make that decision, because hindsight's 2020, right? You're feeling better. You've had sleep, you got rest, you're eating, and now you feel strong, and you start getting these emotions of like, I should have still done it. I should have still done it. Not remembering how exhausted and tired and like that the way you felt in that moment was where you were at. And so that becomes a birth trauma in itself. Especially like I also work, so I work at a hospital as a labor and delivery nurse, and I work at a birth center. It's a freestanding birth center. We only have tubs. It's not connected to a hospital at all. So when one of our mothers is like, I just can't do this anymore, and she's not really progressing, and we've done what we could, she goes to the hospital by an ambulance. So it's a very big ordeal to be transferred, and that becomes a trauma to them as well. So I do work with a lot of women that even have those types of birth trauma, and all the way leading into like abuse growing up. It all, there's a lot of things. 1 in 3 women are abused. So I see a lot of women with that history.
Wow. Very interesting. I really like how you're talking about the limiting beliefs. And I really like this concept of, if we are birthing children into a more powerful belief, then not that they won't need coaching, but like the trauma associated just around life is less, because they're being brought up from birth till they die around a different mindset
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
what was previously known.
Yeah.
And I can actually attest to that, even with my son. Quite honestly, I mean, I look at him, I hear him, I talk to him, and there's times in my head I'm like, dude, you are so much further along mentally and emotionally than I ever was growing up. And it has a lot to do with that, because of the work I've done in my life. It just automatically seeps into his life,
Mm-hmm.
and he views life differently. So I love this. I love the concept of grasping it at birth.
Yeah.
Because I know I did not grasp personal development until my son was probably around 5 years old. And there is a slight bit of guilt and shame on my end emotionally around things that I possibly could have done differently because I know so much now. It's not like really heavy.
Yeah.
It's
And
not like really heavy guilt. It's just like it would have been cool to do
I,
what you're talking about from
I'm
birth.
absolutely, I totally resonate with what you just said, because when you are in this mindset coaching field, you'll get those comments like, I do a lot of videos on educating women, and sometimes what I'm educating on, depending on what that topic is, the person who experienced that but is not really willing to say, I could change it if I understood my mind. They say, well, now I feel just bad. Now you made me feel just bad, because that's where you say like that guilt. Like I was, I did not get into any kind of mindset, vision boards, visual, nothing until my 40s. So for me, like I reflect back on my own self and saying like, man, I wish I knew this younger, but it is what it is. How can I change who I am today into a more positive person, a person that I really want to be, doing the things I truly want to do? Now I understand limiting beliefs, so they can't stop me. Now I understand paradigms, so they can't stop me. If I'm willing to do the work, find them, shift them into a better way to believe, and let that go. This is where I I I have like a way that I try to approach women, especially in the birth um, arena, to hopefully not have them feel that what I have to say is disempowering them. Because what it is doing is, if you understand that all power comes from you, then now you can be empowered and forgive what you didn't know before.
Mm.
You know, we and then, you know, kind of leading that into our own parents, because, you know, saying something to my mom about, well, you know, the way we were raised, like, is why I believe that way. She doesn't want to take that responsibility. So I don't make it her responsibility. I say my mom did the best she could with what she knew at the time of raising me. And now it's my responsibility to say, what can I do for myself? And that's where, you know, obviously we start doing our own healing. We start getting into things that help us understand our mind. And now, you know, because I'm 51. So I can look back to say, man, like my life is over. Like, not over, sorry, but like, how do I say it? I'm past the halfway mark of my lifespan.
Mm.
I have maybe 30 good years, maybe 40. We never know. But the idea of that, you know, when I was 15, 16, even my limiting belief and my mindset drove me to marry the person I chose to marry out of my own, I had no self esteem. And so I chose things at a young age due to how I felt about myself. So as I find like older women are looking more towards healing. And I was like, let's stop that and start at birth so we have healthy babies, not at 40 years old looking to heal, right? From because their parents didn't know any better. Our parents just, they have their own paradigms. They were programmed from their parents. Their parents were programmed from their parents. And generationally, we carry most of it on. We try to change a little bit. You know, like what you were saying earlier, how you took yourself and said, I'm going to do it differently.
Yeah.
And not everybody does that, right? So they say, they think they have to do it that way.
Yeah.
They're trained, they're programmed to believe they have to do it that way. And we're starting to see more of that in birth. Birth used to be done in the home. That was normal. Then it went into hospital. Now it's not only in hospital, but inductions are about 15 to 20% elective inductions.
Wow.
And so, because women are thinking, well, the doctor said 39 weeks is the best time to have an induction. And I guess if that's what they think is good, I'm just going to do that. And it's the doctors, I've heard them say, oh, I'm not telling them they have to. We just offer it. And I'm like, do you know how much influence you hold
Totally. You're
over
right.
women when you just offer it? They
Yeah.
actually hear you say, I think you should.
Yeah.
And they're putting all their trust in you. So then you get a woman who agreed to elective induction thinking, I'm going to go in, I'm going to have this induction, and I'll be holding my baby by the end of the night. And we're going in 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. And sometimes nothing is happening, nothing is happening. And they're like, the only way we can finish this is with a C-section. And then she's crying because now she said, what if I didn't make this decision? And it is like, it's something I don't feel like doctors see because I'm
Yeah.
in the room with them.
So
Hour.
I have a question regarding this,
Mhm.
and not to take away from doctors, not to start going down a rabbit hole of ridiculousness, but is a lot of this connected to money, finances, insurance?
So there's um I would have to say I'm on the fence on that because most of my career was in military medicine and we're doing nothing for money, right? But the pace that I've seen in the civilian hospital is quicker. So I feel like there is a money push because of getting the beds filled, but at the same time, as practitioners all together under like one entity, is they're all telling each other that this is okay. So they're doing it whether there's a money push or not.
Okay.
And it may be coming strongly from the money push, but those doctors that are practicing without like a push about money, like we do in the military, but they're getting influenced. So it's becoming like a culture, and whether or not money is a factor, it may have started this way, but they're still influencing the providers that aren't being told to get them in, get them out because of money. And that becomes like the how the doctors now, how we talk about programming, right? So the younger doctors are coming up believing in this 39-week induction because now it's getting trained in schools. Now it becomes part of our culture. It's like a
Got it.
slow growth.
Is it also maybe out of convenience? Because I know, like, I gave birth at like a ridiculous hour. My doctor was there in the morning, like 3 or 4 in the morning, whatever, gave birth at 7. So he had to like possibly get out of bed and come over. Like, I didn't even think about that. So in an induction,
When
or
we
isn't it kind of more conveniently timed?
well, okay, when we look at the inductions they're trying to control the timing of it.
Okay.
So, but
Not always successfully.
So, but where, at least in my experience for where I work, does not matter that if that doctor is not on call for that night, that doctor is at 5 o'clock going to go home.
Okay.
On-call doctor will be the delivery. So
Oh,
what they kind of say is like, if you want me to deliver your baby, then we got to get this induction started on this day because I work that day. And so it becomes like between the doctor telling them, if you want me to be there for your birth, then
okay.
we have to kind of do it this way. Otherwise,
Wow.
the on-call doctor delivers them.
Wow.
And I would love to just let women know that, you know, having a birth plan is very important because it's a communication tool. So this birth plan is, and to go over it with your doctor to have the them to accept the things you want, that becomes so that when they are not there, it has been provider approved by one of their colleagues. So that becomes like, because doctors, they practice the way. An example would be, there was one doctor that I worked with, he didn't approve nitrous because he just hadn't worked with it, he wasn't familiar, so he was not comfortable saying yes to one of the patient's desires. But her doctor that she had seen prenatally had agreed to it, right? So there's these things that kind of go on behind the scenes that women really have to understand, talk to their doctors very early in their pregnancy. Does the whole practice agree to nitrous? Or am I going to be like fighting someone about
At the
something?
end.
Let
Yeah.
me know, because I'll go choose another practice.
Yeah.
So it's making sure that you are in alignment with who you're choosing, so that you're not running into this. And that's where I feel sometimes too, getting help. Like, I help women make birth plans as more of a communication tool. They understand what they're asking for, and they'll say, like the example, they want, oh, okay, you want nitrous. I want you to go back to your doctor. I want you to talk to your doctor and ask, does the whole team feel comfortable using this? Because I know not every doctor does. This is something a woman's not going to know. This isn't, her area of expertise. So that gives her power. I'm going to go to my doctor. We're going to talk. That gives her choice. All right, you said one doctor ain't on board with it. Do I want to stay here or not? And give her the choice. But when you don't have this knowledge, that's why my background in labor and delivery is like so powerful to my coaching, because I'm like, I know what that background looks like. And you can almost like, mitigate a problem early in the pregnancy. And that becomes like somewhere that she felt she had choice, she felt she had empowerment. And that is all about it does, like I said, I'm not saying I'm only here for women who want natural labor. I'm here for women who have an idea of the way they want to experience their birth, and that they deserve to have that.
Mm.
Some things they have to know ahead of time so that they can work on it or mitigate it or have a discussion about it. And birth is very complex. Even from the way they decide to do an induction varies from doctor to doctor. And those are things that I educate them. So when they go to speak to their doctor, they make their true informed decisions. So that's something women, I think they don't realize. I've had patients come in at the hospital, elective induction. I said, do you know why they planned your induction today, why it was scheduled? And they actually say, no, I don't. But they told me I should schedule it, so I did. They and they have no idea what is about to go on.
Wow. So interesting. We've learned a lot. You've given us a lot of information. So appreciate that. I'd love to kind of close up here on who do you help? We have people listening live right now. I'm sure we're going to have plenty more on the replay. Who should be reaching out to you? Who do you help?
I help prenatally and postpartum. So if you are going into a birth empowerment coaching for me includes my coaching program. We talk about body work. If you're local, I do the body work. If you're not, I help find who I think I would recommend you go to. We do energy work. I can do that virtually. If you've experienced a traumatic birth, or you're going like in for a VBAC, I help with releasing trauma, like I did with one girl, just even energy medicine to help you go into your next birth, releasing trauma, releasing trapped emotions, feeling empowered, whether or not you're in a program with me, that you don't have to do all of that. So if you've experienced a traumatic birth and you want to heal from that, I can help you do that. If you are a first-time mom and you want to have this beautiful birth that you're envisioning, I help with that. So almost like that whole they call it like perinatal, where it's like beginning to end as well. And because of that, what we experience even post birth in that trauma, it actually impacts the rest of your life. So it's really important to clear it and heal from it, especially if you are planning more kids. I have women that have said, I won't have another baby because of this. And I think if they had healing therapy, debriefing, they wouldn't feel that way. So I do both.
Wow, very interesting. Um, people who want to reach out to you, where can they find more information? Where can they follow you?
I have social media, TikTok. The Birth Coach is the handle for that. In the website, maryaeddaifi.com. That gives some of my programs. Coaching into results at maryaeddaifi.com. You can send me an email. We can get talking that way. If you feel like you just want like an emotion code session, that's on the website, so you can actually book through the website. I'm on Facebook as Empowered Birth and Pregnancy. I'm on Instagram as the Birth Coach as well, I think.
I see an app on your website. Is that a thing?
Yeah, the app I designed to help women in prodromal labor. So it's if you're 38 weeks or more and you're going through that prodromal labor where it feels like real labor, but they're telling you you're only 1 centimeter or 2 centimeter, the app is to do certain maneuvers to help your body release. So that's part of like what I learned from my bodywork stuff, to help you progress in your labor so that you are not stuck in prodromal labor, which is a lot of women honestly, they feel traumatized by prodromal labor as well, because it can be very rough and nobody believing that you're in labor because your dilation. And they feel, they often get turned away at the hospital. They get sent home, you're not in labor. And they don't know what to do. They don't give them tools. So the app is there to fill that gap.
Very cool. I love it. Well, for those of you that are looking to connect with Marya, her link or her website is in a clickable link in the description below. This was amazing. Is your social media also on your website, so it's easily clickable or findable?
The TikTok is.
The TikTok, okay.
Yeah, TikTok is where you will find most of my educational videos.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been phenomenal. So appreciate you being here and sharing so much information with us.
I'm so glad I got to do this.
Yeah, for those of you that are listening live, make sure that you follow, like, and share. Oh, yeah, I see. So on her website, under the home page, she has follow me buttons for inspiration, tips, and more. So she has a whole lineup there of links that you can click on to follow her through social media. I love that. All right. Well, maybe for those of you listening live or on the replay, remember to follow, like, and share. And once again, I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. I invite you to join our amazing community, Her Nation, where we continue to uplift our audience every step of the way. Any closing thoughts, Marya, as we close up here?
I would just love to help women understand that, and I have bared witness that birth can be calm and beautiful and empowering. And the fear that has developed over the years, it's just a mindset, and we can change that and we can bring our power back.
Love it. Very cool. Well, thank you so much for being here and for sharing so much information and inspiration with us. As always, until next time, ladies and gentlemen, do something awesome today. Much love.